On this week's episode of Where We Are, Melissa and I will break down Iowa caucus results, look ahead to New Hampshire. This is Where We Are.
Hello, Where We Are listeners. If you're a longtime fan of this podcast or you're just joining us for the first time today, we want to tell you more about our podcast platform called Spotify for Podcasters. We've been using this platform for over a year, and it's been easy to use, and new features are added all the time. You can record and edit podcasts from your phone or computer. You don't need anything fancy, and you don't need previous podcast experience. When you hit publish, you will distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify if that's your kind of thing. And with Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. But here's the thing, you can earn money, but it's a free platform. There's no catch. If you're curious or want to see what it's all about, download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Where We Are. We are the Wares. I'm Michael.
I'm Melissa.
And Melissa, we are 2 days away from the biggest day in political history of the modern era. And by that, I mean the spirit of our politics drops.
I tried to calculate how far away the Bills game was for a second.
Yeah, no, the Bills game is today.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's
Go Bills.
tonight. Go Bills. Bills Mafia. Feed the pit.
I wonder if anybody's fed the pit yet. Okay, so for listeners who are not Bills fans like we are, there is new Buffalo Bills lore hanging around. The Bills are getting a brand new stadium. They have just created the pit for the stadium over the last couple of months. And rumors have now circulated that the Bills have won, their last 6 games? Yeah. The last 6 games because someone has sacrificed themselves to this pit before each game. And now the Buffalo Bills have won. And now it's become a superstition. And so Bills fans this entire last week.
A very dark meme. If I
But extremely Bills.
Yes, that too.
And so everybody's been talking about who is going to sacrifice themselves to the pit this week because it must be fed.
Yes.
So they play the Chiefs. We're going to obviously beat the Chiefs. We're going to move on to the AFC Championship against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Which is the city that we live in. But
I don't feel torn at all.
I don't feel torn at all. It's all right.
No, I love Baltimore, but
Baltimore.
my football allegiances are pretty settled.
That's right. So back to the spirit of our politics. It comes out in 2 days, babe. We've been waiting for months on end. Honestly, you've thought about this book for years.
Yes, I think we're going to do an episode where we'll talk about
next week's episode will be all about the parts of the book that I love the most. So,
which, that's really what you want to get to. And the audience, that is, our audience most wants to know what you like about the book.
Yeah.
Had the book party this past week. That was a blast.
That was so much fun. We had it in DC.
I was nervous, as I always am.
You were very nervous. I rarely see you nervous anymore, to be honest with you. So I was a bit thrown.
It's been a weird thing. It seems like everything with this book is sort of like happening all at once, whereas my first book, things sort of like trickled out. There was an Atlantic interview but that was 3-4 weeks before the release. But this is just like everything is happening all of a sudden. And really the book party was the first time I got to see like a face-to-face reaction to some of the content. With my first book, I never did a reading directly from the book for any of the book events. So
Really?
even though I'm a
Wow.
second time, third time author, depending on how you count, this was my the book party this past week was like the first time there's been like a reception and like I read from the book, which was fun. It was a cool experience. And so had a wonderful group of folks come out. The host lives next door to Donna Brazil, and so like an hour into the book reception, Donna Brazil drops in, which was great. Like she had her puppy with her.
Yeah.
She's like, I've read some excerpts from the book. It looks great, and
I was talking with someone, and all of a sudden, a new dog just ran past me, and I pointed out and said, "Oh, look, there's a new puppy." And someone just goes, "Yeah, that's Donna Brazil's dog." And I just look at them and go, "Okay." But she was beyond lovely.
yeah, I was able to remind her back in 2012, she dropped by the Chicago headquarters and literally, like, was there for 2.5 hours, stopped and said hello and checked in on every staffer in the headquarters. She's a pretty incredible woman, and what a role she's played in American politics.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's DC for you.
yeah. So yeah, Tuesday the book comes out. What that means is that there's still 48 hours left to pre-order.
Yeah.
But after that, it won't be a pre-order. It'll just be an order. January 23rd. If you remember, is also the date of something else happening in our politics, and that is the New Hampshire primary.
Yes.
And so, the field has consolidated
Yes.
somewhat. May consolidate a lot more potentially over the next 24 hours, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that point.
But Melissa, first let's talk a bit about Iowa. Our predictions were great, but that's mostly because the race has been pretty settled. The polling has been pretty consistent.
yeah.
We didn't make predictions that fell too far outside of the polling. The polling was actually really good. And Donald Trump won with over 50% of the vote. DeSantis came in second, far from Trump. But with Nikki Haley a few points behind. And, like we discussed last week, kind of the nightmare, or I shouldn't say nightmare, but worst case scenario for those who wanted to see Trump weakened coming out of Iowa. Not only did he win, not only did DeSantis come second, and Haley, we'll see how she does on Tuesday, but one would think she would have gotten more momentum had she beaten out of Iowa, had she beaten DeSantis there. But that's where we are. Trump won a majority of white evangelicals in Iowa. No surprise there. Folks who were surprised should not have been. Not only because of Trump, he's the incumbent, basically in a sort of pseudo-incumbent. But remember, we've been talking about the fact that DeSantis and Haley didn't really put in the work in the way that a Ted Cruz or a Rick Santorum had in the state. And that wasn't just negligence on their part. I'm assuming they also read the tea leaves and saw that Iowa has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Trump has changed Iowa. And the hardcore sort of GOP primary voting base there. Melissa, any thoughts on Iowa? Anything stick out to you?
The only thing that I thought was interesting for the night, because it went pretty much how you and I both thought that it would go, there was rightfully so some complaints coming out that different outlets called the race for Trump before a lot of people had even caucused yet. And what are sort of the ethics around something like that? Now, in like regular primary states, the polls close, and then you often, if obviously they can tell, you will often get projections, but people, the time is hit 8 p.m., it's hit 7 p.m., polls close, you get the immediate projection. But with the caucus, with Trump sort of running away with the victory, they were able to announce it when people had
because
even
it's an
voted.
entrance poll,
Yes.
not an exit poll.
Exactly. And so a lot of people, I think, forget that that's how Iowa works, that it will be an entrance poll, and that if you're in a situation like this ever where one candidate is running away with the vote, that this canon will happen. It was interesting to see the chatter around that.
And I agree with it. I don't think there's no value provided in announcing, in making that projection. It's just news outlets wanting to get first. And I do think it's conceivable that it has an effect.
That's what I would
how
want
people
studied, because
would vote.
my guess would be that it does affect people, that somebody might be 5 minutes away from the polling place, hears on the radio, oh, Trump won, and they might
Or
have
their
been...
phone.
Or their phone, sorry.
Yeah.
Not even the... Wow,
Like,
I just...
yeah.
Barely a millennial. Yeah, on their phone, they hear it, see it, whatever, and then they turn around because they're like, why go vote?
Yeah,
If they're, especially
why go vote? Or they go in thinking, maybe DeSantis, maybe Haley has a shot. Maybe I'll cast my vote for them, and then they're getting ready to vote, and it's like, oh, Trump already won this thing. This is a foregone conclusion. Might as well vote for the winner. So, yeah, I agree with you there. Anything else on Iowa? Vivek did get, I think, about 8 points.
Yes. And the polling was right on him. Yep.
Yep, polling was right on him. He did perform really well among 18 to 29-year-olds.
People. Yep.
And that's something to watch, folks. Not just, so he endorsed Trump, not just for the endorsement, but I tweeted this, I X'd this, whatever. I think people would be smart to take a hard look at and I think some people misunderstood the point. I wasn't saying, oh, Vivek took these policy positions, or he ran a campaign with the sort of policy approach. No, the point is, campaign should be taking a hard look at the tactics, where Vivek spent money, what his digital operation looked like, because when he tied for first among 18 to 29-year-olds in the Iowa caucus, even though I think he got 21% of 18 to 29-year-olds with only 8% of the vote. Like those are eye-popping, maybe an exaggeration, but those are significant numbers. I can promise you that at the very least, the digital teams for Trump, Haley, DeSantis, and I bet you bottom dollar the Biden campaign are looking to see what and unpack that.
100%. So that's Iowa.
Yeah.
Now we've got New Hampshire on the day that The Spirit of Our Politics releases. We're going to do this to you again this week. Sorry.
So here's the thing that's looming over this episode.
What?
Which is, in the last 4 or 5 hours, the DeSantis campaign announced that they were pulling out of major news hits that they had. They were going to be on CNN and I think Meet the Press.
Yep. I saw MTP.
Meet the Press tomorrow morning. Those are big gets, opportunity to reach a big audience. It's a premier placement, so to speak. Very rare to pull out. They say that they're doing an event in New Hampshire, which I believe them on. The reason they give is like travel logistics. They're saying they have like a week of events. Da, da, da. Here's what I'm saying. We're going to put this episode out. We don't know what's going to happen at this DeSantis event in New Hampshire. I look at this, and others are sort of, speculating. Is he going to drop out tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Is he going to endorse? And if so, who? Trump racked up a number of endorsements. Senator Tim Scott endorsed Donald Trump. Someone asked for my opinion on that, but this is not a listener Q&A episode, so save it for the listener Q&A episode because I do not want to answer that question right now. But Marco Rubio so Trump has been building up some support. Is DeSantis, did the Trump campaign make an overture to DeSantis? And did they just, are they nervous? Or is DeSantis, I did note in the last debate they had when, they were asked to say a nice thing about the other, Governor Haley just said that DeSantis was a good governor. Could DeSantis endorse Haley? I think the odds are, here I'll just say, prediction, we don't know what's going to happen. I think DeSantis will look out for his own career. I think the odds of him, he could potentially get primaried in Florida if he turns against Trump. Trump has a lot of capital in Florida. I think if Ron DeSantis is dropping out, if he is endorsing someone, I think it'll be Trump, unfortunately, in my view. But so that kind of looms over this. That could have a lot to do with New Hampshire. DeSantis is only getting somewhere between 4 to 8% in New Hampshire in polling, but that could it could be significant. And so that's a question mark. The polling for New Hampshire heading in, the good news for Trump is that he seems to be polling pretty solidly above 50. So I'm seeing polls with him at 53, 54, which means that Nikki Haley could consolidate all the vote and Trump would still win. Typically, I'm seeing Haley in mid to high 30s. If I had to, I think Trump will win. I think the question is, can Haley make it interesting? How long does the night go? Is there a lot of, is there chatter about Haley performing, overperforming? Haley's been raising questions this weekend about Trump's mental fitness for office after Trump confused her with Nancy Pelosi. Friends, I won't give you the details on that. It's really not worth your time, except to know that Donald Trump seemed to mistake Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi. And Nikki Haley has been driving that message over the weekend. If she overperforms expectations, obviously beating Trump, or if she's within, again, I think for me, if she's within 6-8 points, I'm thinking, yeah, it's worth continuing on. Does there start to be some momentum around this idea that an argument about Trump's fitness for office could be meaningful heading into South Carolina, heading into Super Tuesday?
Well, I think because Haley has already been going after Trump about his age this weekend, that if she does actually perform the way you're talking about, then it absolutely,
Yes.
people will connect the dots and say, oh, her argument's there. It means that she made inroads with those arguments for sure.
Yeah.
Which is something that I've been talking about since we had our episode on the age debate between Biden and Trump, that you just needed one outcome for a lot of doubt to be brought into the media mainstream.
You mean electoral, like a, yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
And for the media to just run with that doubt.
Yeah. I agree. I think the other side of this is like, what happens if Trump gets 60?
Yeah, 100%.
And does Haley really want to get embarrassed in her home state?
Oh, yeah.
And this is kind of the question both Haley and DeSantis are asking. And again, this will be outdated very soon. But just to talk about DeSantis, he did get over 20% in Iowa, did come in second. But, if we're to believe the polling, he's polling single digits in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. It's not like, after Iowa they said that they were for a while they said they were skipping New Hampshire, going straight to South Carolina. They've kind of been back and forth on that, but it's not like South Carolina is like super promising for DeSantis.
No.
So this whole week I've kind of been going, what is the pathway here? Like, where does he think he's going to get momentum from? And it's like, I don't see it. What I wonder is if they thought, well, I think they thought if we drop out, then it's just Haley. And if something happens with Haley, if she fumbles the ball heading into New Hampshire, then then no one's left. And so I wonder if they just thought, let's hang around, let's see what changes, let's see if we get a bump from getting second in Iowa. Let's do some events in South Carolina, see how it feels, if there's traction here. But I wonder if and we'll see if what they learned, and I would not be surprised if he dropped out.
Yeah, I mean, that story coming out yesterday, Saturday, about him canceling some big media appointments. Since Tuesday and Wednesday, there have been various reports in various outlets saying that he was already looking at 2028. And it was coming from insiders, and I just don't think, and I think floating that out there, the team might have been trying to see what do people think about that, about him looking already to 2028 and, dropping. And I thought, that's strange. That means he must be dropping out soon. That's what went through my mind on Wednesday, I think, when I saw one of the stories. Yeah. And now this news came out. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they tested the waters just a few days ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not sure I have that much more to say about New Hampshire. It's a very different state from Iowa. And, if Haley can't do well here, it's kind of like the reverse New York City situation. Like, if Haley can't do well in New Hampshire, given her base, she can't do well anywhere. If she can't make it in New Hampshire, she can't make it anywhere. And so this really is the moment for her. And again, I don't think she needs to win to continue, but I do think she needs to show that she can go toe-to-toe with Trump. I think, if you want to know my real prediction, I think whether she comes within 5 or comes within 15, I think she's going to challenge Trump to a debate. I think her New Hampshire victory speech will be like, Donald, it's like you and me. She loves playing. She loves playing sort of. I don't mean this in a negative way, but like she'll play the gender card. She'll sort of like, she makes sort of comments that invoke gender and being a female politician. I wouldn't be surprised if she made some sort of appeal that they thought could grab headlines of Haley essentially challenging Trump's manhood to try and get him into some kind of moment where Haley and Trump are on a debate stage together or a joint interview or something. That would be my prediction. Now, if she wins New Hampshire, Trump may be the one wanting a debate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. So let's run with that prediction and see what
We'll
happens
see what
this
happens.
week. Yeah.
Yep. It's we're gonna have there'll be a big focus on South Carolina if Haley makes this interesting, and if not, the general election could begin on Wednesday morning.
Yep. It might get a little bit longer.
Yeah. All right, Melissa. I think that covers it. If folks want to hear more of at least me, had a great time talking with our friends at the Church Politics Podcast, and Pastor Chris Butler interviewed me about the book over there. The Martin Institute interviewed me. The Martin Institute houses the Willard Papers. They do so much wonderful work. Was able to talk with Mike DeFucia about the book there. There will be a number of other interviews coming out over the next week, but those are two good ones. Other thing I'd say is for those who are signed up at ccpubliclife.org, we actually sent out the audio for the first chapter of the book. If you aren't signed up for that email, just drop us a line at the pod. You could go through whereweare.substack.com. You could reach out to Melissa and I over social media. I'll send you the link if you're listening to this podcast. You would love for you to have the gift as well. Maybe you could listen to it before the book, before you get your own copy of the book on Tuesday.
Or if you're thinking about that audiobook.
Thinking about that audiobook.
You sound great. It was the first time I got to hear you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It was fun recording it.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of fun. You loved it.
Yeah. It was it was a great experience. The only thing was I was in a small booth reading off an iPad, and it was 8-hour days. So I'd leave that booth and my vision was messed up for 3 hours. It took so long for my eyes to get back, but it was fun to record the audiobook. All right, Melissa, this is next week will be new people. So much will have changed
A different
in
kind
our
of
lives, in our lives, in the country.
Yes.
Either the Buffalo Bills will be headed to the AFC Championship, or their season will be over.
7 people will have sacrificed themselves to the pit for nothing.
We'll have results from New Hampshire.
Yep. We'll know if Ron DeSantis is in or not.
The book will have come out, and who knows? Maybe Saoirse will lose some other teeth. We didn't even talk about that.
Our didn't talk about it.
5-year-old daughter just lost her first tooth. Already has the adult tooth, the tooth that she'll have for the rest of her life.
It's already there.
Is already there, and she's 5, and she's basically moving out. We're
we were thrown
disturbed.
for a loop. We
very
weren't prepared.
disturbed.
I wasn't mentally prepared. Because I wasn't mentally prepared, I was not emotionally prepared for this big milestone in her life and really in my own life. Yeah, any other parents out there thrown for a loop when your kids lose their teeth? Because, well, we were.
Yeah, no, it was jarring. Mm-hmm. It was.
And she looks so
jarring.
cute.
She looks adorable.
Oh, I love her so much.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Okay.
This has been Where We Are.
Bye.
It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up.